What's up, guys? Jordan McAbee here, owner-operator, FantasyRacingOnline.com, home of the Slingshot Fantasy Auto Contest, and today we're going to talk about Las Vegas. Damn, I miss Vegas. I used to go there, try to get there once a year, but ever since COVID hit, that didn't happen last year. Let's check out the starting lineup for Sunday's race, the Pennzoil 400. Kevin Harvick's on the pole. William Byron, last week's winner, starts second. Larson, Truex, McDowell rounding out the top five. We got Dennis in sixth, Kurt Busch, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, and Brad Keselowski. Top 10. A couple noteworthy guys starting near the back. DiBenedetto starting 30th, Eric Jones 29th. Eric Almirola, 28th. Ryan Blaney, 26th. And you could also... Kyle Busch and Joey Logano starting 14th and 15th. It's a little bit surprising. But you'll have that here earlier in the year. So Las Vegas. Standard mile-and-a-half track. If you listened last week, it's what I refer to as low wear and what most people refer to as a low wear mile-and-a-half track. And I group them all together, all the low wears, and kind of look at them as a whole each year. So you got like Vegas, Charlotte, Kentucky, Kansas, Texas. Might be one more in there. But you get the point. There was 9 races on them last year. And we'll take a look here at last year's performances on low wear tracks. Brad Keselowski had the best average finish at 6.4. Got Harvick there at 7.2. Blaney at 7.7. Larson, who only made one start, he finished 9th. Truex 9.4. Kyle Busch, Logano, Kurt Busch, Denny Hamlin, DiBenedetto. Austin Dillon had a solid year on the mile-and-a-halves. And then Chase Elliott, he actually ran into quite a bit of bad luck, as did Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman had a habit of kind of fading in the second half of races, as did William Byron. As you can see, their average running positions don't quite line up with their average finishes. Let's take a look at... So that's one thing to note about these low-wear mile-and-a-half. So last year, we had some not crazy, but unexpected finishes. And a lot of it came down to late pit stops. And that can really be what determines this race on Sunday. So if there's a late pit stop, there could easily be... sorry, my dog's doing something. I'm not sure what. If there's a late pit stop, there could easily be someone that gambles on no tires, gambles with just 2 tires. And then how these races with this package turn out is there's often, it comes down to track position. That's really all that matters, especially in like a green-white checkered situation. Only thing that matters is track position. So last year, we had Matt DiBenedetto finish second in, I think, both races here at Vegas. Yeah, so he started 19th and finished second in both races here at Vegas. He didn't have the second best car by any means, but he was there at the end and he had good track position because that's all that matters. Speaking of last year's races, let's go back and look at... So here is the first Las Vegas race of 2020. As you can see, Harvick and Blaney, pretty much 2 best cars all day, at least as far as average running position. Neither of them finished top 5. They didn't even finish top 7. Harvick finished 8th, Blaney finished 11th. Logano, who had an average running position of 4.2 that race, ended up winning. And then we have Elliott, Byron, and Truex all finishing in the 20s, despite having the 4th, 5th, and 6th best average running positions. You see how kind of weird this race turned out because of a late caution. Matt DiBenedetto finished second but had an average running position of 14.2. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finished third with an average running position of 4.5. Green flag speed, we see a similar story. Blaney, Byron, Logano, Elliott, Harvick. We know who the fastest cars were in that race. We know who the fast cars are going to be in this race on Sunday, for the most part. It's just whether this race ends on a long green flag run, which is certainly possible at these 1.5 miles, or if we get a late caution that kind of messes things up. I'd say from a predictability scale, we pretty much know what's going to happen the first 2 stages. It's kind of just the finish where things can get a little wild. We know who should run up front for most of this race and who should have the best cars. Playoff race last year here at Vegas, which was back, it was in September. That was a night race. So, as I mentioned last week, Joe Gibbs Racing, they seem to have extra speed at night. It's something I noticed. It happened again last week at Homestead. They found their speed more toward the night than they were during the day. Denny Hamlin had the best car here in the playoff race last year, but Kurt Busch ended up winning. I forget what got him up there. DiBenedetto again finished second, although he did have a solid run. If you look at this average running position at 8.4, which was 6th best. But again, we have Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Kevin Harvick, the typical guys running up front and running well. Green flag speed, again, Hamlin, number 1. Chase Elliott, number 2. Alex Bowman, Blaney, Truex, Kyle Busch. I would personally say that Hamlin and Kyle Busch's speed was a little bit better because this was a night race. Let's check out what my algorithm thinks for this race. Excuse me. Predicting Harvick to win, Martin Truex Jr. finishing second. Then there's quite a big gap down to Chase Elliott in third, Brad Keselowski in fourth. Predicting Larson to finish fifth. Bowman, Logano, Hamlin, Kurt Busch, and then Byron, last week's winner, 10th. It's got Kyle Busch projected to finish 11th, and then Ryan Blaney and Austin Dillon, who, like I said last year, had a great season on 1.5 miles. 13.6 average finish, 12.8 average running position. Let's sort this chart by average running position. Blaney was the best car on this track type last year. Dillon's right there, 13th best, right there with Byron, DiBenedetto, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch. Austin Dillon was pretty solid on this track type last year. And let's take a look at, before we get to building a slingshot lineup here, let's look at the last 2 years of Las Vegas races. So this package that NASCAR is using has been in and used for the last 2 years. We have 4 races of data from Las Vegas. So I'm not really concerned about much before that. Obviously I'm going to take into consideration, but I'm more focused on low wear results and low wear data from last year, as well as Las Vegas specific data from 2019 and 2020. That's just kind of what I'm keying in on this week as far as data to look at. So, Kevin Harvick, last 4 races here, best average running position, average of 4.9. He's on the pole. Chase Elliott, you'll notice he's had bad luck here. Average running position is 7th, which is 2nd best. Average finish at 15.3. Joey Logano, he's won the last 2 spring races here at Las Vegas. Martin Truex Jr., always a threat on 1.5 miles. Alex Bowman, always solid. And then William Byron, last week's winner. Again, you see a trend here with Chase Elliott and William Byron not getting the finishes they deserve, whereas Brad Keselowski is kind of there at the end and gets the finish that he maybe doesn't deserve, or the car wasn't really that good, But yeah, so that's kind of the data that I'm paying attention to and looking into for especially the slingshot, contest. So we got 4 races of data from Las Vegas over the last 2 years, and then last year's low wear tracks. You can also throw in 2019 low wear tracks. I personally wouldn't pay much attention to the high wear mile and a halves, but that's just me. You can obviously look at last week's race at Homestead and kind of get, I'm definitely taking a little bit into consideration how these first few weeks of the season are going, but it's not like a huge factor in how I'm, picking my fantasy NASCAR drivers. So Chase Elliott, highest priced in slingshot this week. Truex is right up there. Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, those 4 all above 12,000 or at 12,000 or above. I really think, so just looking at the starting positions of this week and the driver salaries for this week, I think it's finally time to get back to, if you played last year and you kind of realized what the optimal lineup construction was like, I think it's time to get back to that. I mentioned in the video last week, I didn't think it was quite the time for that at Homestead, just because there were so many good drivers starting, 30th or worse and way back there. I think we're finally to a point where, with the drivers that are starting so far back, we can now go back to that lineup construction that was optimal so many times in the slingshot contest last year, this week at Las Vegas. And that includes basically two of the top tier drivers, 2 of the mid-price drivers, and then 1, basically, you just hope they don't wreck. I'm talking, I wouldn't dig down here to, Quinn Houff or BJ McLeod. I'm talking Corey LaJoie, Anthony Alfredo, Priest and Suarez probably started a little too high. You could make a case for Suarez. He finished 15th last week, starts 22nd this week. If he can pull that off again, Bubba Wallace gets a little too high for that lineup construction price wise. But that's kind of what I'm thinking is going to be the best strategy here this week. So let's start off with Ryan Blaney was so good on mile and a half last year. Average finish is 7.7, average running position is 6.6. Ryan Blaney has not been good to start this year at all. You can call it bad luck, you can call it whatever you want. Ryan Blaney did not have the speed we expected at the Daytona Road Course. Ryan Blaney did not have the speed we expected at Homestead. Is this going to be a trend that continues? Or is the Las Vegas race this week exactly what the doctor ordered for Ryan Blaney? I guess we'll find out soon enough. As far as history here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, you can see here Blaney's been solid pretty much since the beginning. Top 7s in 6 of his 9 starts. Nice. Top 5s in 3 of the last 6. Just all around solid. And he's starting 26th on Sunday. If I'm going for max points, I think you have to put Ryan Blaney in your lineup. So let's start there. Now let's go down, and we just talked about the low dollar guys a little bit ago. I really like Corey LaJoie this week in the slingshot contest. He obviously blew an engine at Homestead. I don't think that's you can't predict that stuff, but I really liked how Corey LaJoie finished on low wear tracks last year. So here at Homestead, let's look at here at Vegas, let's look at his Vegas stats. 16th in this race last year, probably benefited from that late caution, but 28th or better in each of the last 5. Low wear tracks specifically, look at this, average finish. Corey LaJoie, 22.1. That's better than Michael McDowell, better than Ty Dillon. Corey LaJoie was solid on this track. Yes, he's not in the same car. But if those Spire cars are at least just don't break, I don't see Corey LaJoie not moving up at least into the top 30 And I think I trust him more than I trust Anthony Alfredo. I think Anthony Alfredo has a better car and possibly better upside. You know, he could sneak into the top 22 or so, with depending on how a race goes. But I don't trust him. I have no reason to trust him right now. Plus, Corey LaJoie is driving a car with his freaking face on the hood. Why wouldn't I pick him? So I'm gonna my low dollar guy this week is gonna be Corey LaJoie. I'm pretty certain on that. At least just 32,400 remaining for the last three guys. So the no-brainer pick would be going with Matt DiBenedetto. He's really disappointed these last 2 weeks, but if they can just have somewhat decent speed to what they had last year, somewhat relatable speed, you know, this is a Blaney thing for me. Same exact situation. Are they going to continue lacking on speed, or are they going to find something this week? But if you throw DiBenedetto in this lineup, that leaves you 23,300 for the last two guys. I think Logano is kind of a no-brainer too. He's got that place differential upside. Starting 15th. He's won the last two spring races here. He's been solid. Like, look at this. He's led 46 or more laps in 4 of the last 5 Vegas races. Just, it's hard to argue with those numbers. Low wear tracks last year, the 4th best average running position, tied for 4th with Chase Elliott. So you throw Joey Logano on this lineup, leaves you 11,700. You can get the other Penske guy of Brad Keselowski here. I don't hate that lineup. You're going super heavy on Penske, you know, and who, rightfully so, you know, Vegas, this has been their track lately. Blaney's been awesome here. Logano's won the last 2. Keselowski's always there at the end. DiBenedetto, you got your place differential play in there. If you wanted to go off of DiBenedetto, I want to like Austin Dillon, but with him starting 12th, that's too risky for me. You're basically you need a top 10 from him for that to pay off, and even then it's probably not going to pay off. You know, I'd much rather, if I'm feeling super risky, come down and grab Buescher or Stenhouse. But I don't hate Cole Custer this week. Let me tell you why. Now, Custer's numbers here aren't great by any means. 19th and 16th here last year. But in addition to, so this year so far, he finished 11th at Daytona, 13th at the Daytona Road Course, which is very good for Cole Custer, by the way. Very good for him. He was running top 5 at Homestead in the closing laps. I don't know if TV showed this because they were, you know, too focused on the leaders, which I'll give them the pass there. You know, good for them. That was a great race at the end. Hard racing by those guys. But Cole Custer was running top 5 at Homestead last week. We go back to the end of his rookie season last year. Look at this. 14th at Kansas, 14th at Texas, 13th at Martinsville, 16th at Vegas, 9th at the Roval, 14th at Darlington, 12th at Darlington, 14th at Richmond. He had some struggles definitely through the middle and the beginning of last year, his rookie year, but he ended up pretty solid. So I think Custer could be a really sneaky play here in Slingshot. Starting 20th, he doesn't have huge, place differential upside, but if he pulls off top 10, that's solid value there for 8,500. It also frees up the cap, so you can come up here and grab Kevin Harvick. Now, I know typically my big mantra in Slingshot is don't pick the pole setter, but I think Kevin Harvick could win both stages, lead the most laps, and win this race, which would equal a pretty good Slingshot day. even though he wouldn't get any place differential points. So Kevin Harvick, look at his last, recent Vegas races. 40 or more laps led in 4 of the last 6. He, this one's notable. Last fall in the playoff race, started on the pole, led 0 laps, and finished 10th. Wasn't very good all race. I'm willing to completely look past that because I have this theory, and I'm just waiting to get all the data behind it, that Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers are just not up to their typical level at races where there's a huge transition from, mid-evening to night. We saw it several times last year. We saw it last week at Homestead where they sucked through the first part of the race and then were there at the end and had one of the best cars. This, I think, was another example. This race started, it was a night race. It started at 4:30 Vegas time, but ended under the night, or ended under the lights at night. Just something to keep in the back of your head. I would not look at last year's playoff race from Harvick and say, well, he started on the pole then and led 0 laps and finished 10th. I think there's a reason for that. Last year in this race, the Pennzoil 400, he had the best running position. He led 92 laps after starting third, ended up finishing 8th because of the late caution. Look back at this spring race in 2018. I know I said don't really look at 2018 or anything before 2019, but still, this is noteworthy. Started second, won the first stage, won the second stage, led 214 of the 267 laps and won the race. Perfect driver rating of 150. I could see Harvick doing that again this weekend at Las Vegas. One thing to note, which reminds me, Harvick didn't pick the first pit stall this week. He ended up here at pit stall number 6. And Rodney Childers, his crew chief, tweeted out why on, what is today? Wednesday? He basically said that there's no advantage to taking the first pit stall this week. It's like minimal time-wise, and they had an issue where they were constantly spinning their tires trying to get out. So now with pit stall number 6, you still have that opening right in front of you. You basically have an opening behind you with BJ McLeod in 7th. That's just interesting. I love hearing those little tidbits and strategy and the way these guys, think. Just interesting. So we got Byron in the first pit stall. We'll see if that makes a difference. But I'll tell you what. If Harvick's pit crew is as good in Vegas this weekend as they were at Homestead, there's no doubt in my mind that Harvick's going to lead this thing from start to finish. They were incredibly, you remember a couple years ago when Harvick's pit crew constantly lost in positions? They were so fast at Homestead. It was just awesome to see. So with this lineup, you got Harvick, Logano, Blaney, Custer, LaJoie. Again, heavy on the Fords. This is another. This was actually the first lineup that I landed on, just kind of messing around. Of course, I always like my boy Alex Bowman. You could, if you want to jump up and grab Chase Elliott instead of Harvick, you could switch off of Blaney and get Bowman, and have Elliott, Logano, Bowman, Custer, LaJoie. I think Logano is pretty much a lock for my lineup as well. I think Logano and LaJoie are going to be in my lineup no matter what I put in or what I land on. I don't really love any of these guys down here. Chris Buescher's an interesting. Let's see how he's done here at Vegas. 9th, 14th, 18th, 18th, 15th, 15th. That's actually pretty solid. But, starting 18th, you need him to move up. But that could get you, Elliott, Logano, Keselowski, Busch, or LaJoy, or Truex. I like Truex as well. I like Chase's. I like that Chase is starting 8th, and he's been so good. Like, he's been almost like an underrated good here at Vegas. Yeah. If I don't go Harvick, I'd probably go Chase Elliott over Truex. Those three have to be the favorites to dominate, though. If you wanted to go, pure place differential here, get Almirola in there as well with DiBenedetto. If you still come here and grab LaJoy, leaves you 12-5. You could pick anybody you want up top. If you didn't want to go Blaney route and you wanted to go Almirola instead. Almirola was solid on 1.5 miles last year, if I remember right. 14.9 average finish. I mean, that's not bad. Here at Vegas, 7, you can see it there. 3 top 10s in the last 6, of course. Since 2019, 7th, 13th, 21st, and 17th. Don't love him by any means, but pretty solid. There's also Kyle Larson. I think Las Vegas might be his best low-wear 1.5-mile track. He's just someone to keep an eye on for, like, an outside dominator pick. He has 3 finishes, a 3rd or 2nd here. Again, pre this new package, but he's in a Hendrick car now. You're going to hear it all the time. I actually, I talked about Larson here in my preview for the week. Underdogs, of course. Byron Bowman and Austin Dillon. But yeah, that's kind of who I'm looking at this week. I hope that helped you. Be sure to tune in to my DraftKings video once that goes up. Should be up on Friday as usual. Check out articles on fantasyracing.online.com for this Las Vegas race, and good luck. I'm not going to throw in an awful Vegas pun here like Fox would, but good luck. Hope you score big. See ya.